Yo, hey, Wagwan viewers and subs, welcome back to class. First of all, I want to say special thanks to everyone who has been supporting the channel. If you're new here, this is a complete series, guys. So there's episodes from the bodywork to the painting, and this episode is buffing. So this is what the car looks like after I painted all the panels and put them back together. As you can see good clarity. You can see that it's not dry and peely. Now, one problem here is that there is some dirt nibs, and we're gonna take care of those. I'm gonna show you exactly how to get them out without overworking by dry sanding, wet sanding, and polishing. Now, some of these panels here, this door, the bodywork is not great. I'm not gonna lie to you. If this wasn't my car, I would have to redo this panel and get it perfect. Now let's go ahead and move on. Now guys, the main focus is to get all these little dirt nibs you see here on the top half of the car, including the hood and the roof. We're gonna focus on these areas because the lower half you can't really see. The roof came out really good, better than almost every single panel. Now here is all the materials and all the equipments that you will need for this job. I have two different types of buffer. I have the rotary type dual buffer over here, and this one is the dual action buffer. I mainly use a dual action for the finishing touch, as the rotary type gives you more of a powerful cut to remove those sand scratches. So this one is mostly for the finishing touch. I have my DA here, guys. You can use a small one or the big one. And I have some 2000 grit sandpaper. These 3M sandpaper, they really give you a good cut and they have longevity to them. And then I use a 3000, which I will use for wet sanding. Now here is a cool some tools in here that will make your life very easy when it come on to buffing or even a run. So this tool cut kit have a bunch of mini sandpapers and some mini blocks. I will be using the 1200 to denib those dirt and then go over it with the 2000. So all these little blocks, different shapes and sizes, that you just stick them onto and you can get the job done in no time at all. So without wasting any time, let's just jump right into it. And here we go, guys. This is a dirt nib that we're gonna take care of. So you put the 1200 on the block and then you just give it a sand. See, it starts to highlight itself. This is fairly simple to use. You can't mess this up. It's way safer than using the DA because in this way you have more control and it's not complicated at all. Now what you don't want to do is you don't want to dig into it. If you dig into it, you're gonna probably leave a slight dent or you're gonna burn the paint. And make sure that you keep the panel clean. This is one way that you can avoid that swirl mark in the end. So once that's all done, you find all the nibs and you sand them out with the block with the 1200 or 1500. You just get your DA. Now this is a 3-inch DA. I'll show you how to use both of them, because in the end what I want to do is I want to give the hood a show car look. So I'm going to be sanding the whole thing down with 2000. But this is just one way that I wanted to teach you guys that it'll give you less work. Now, as you guys can see, almost half the hood was covered in dirt nib. I was not happy how it came out, but you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But it's fine. Dirt nibs are easy to take care of versus a reaction problem, a run, or some fish eyes. So what I'm gonna do here, guys, is the different technique that I wanted to do originally. So on my DA is my soft pad and then 2000 grit. So I'll cut all the peel that's already on the car and give it a buff. So make sure that you keep it clean. And once I do this, I'm gonna go over the old thing with the 3000 grit sandpaper. Now, as I said, guys, you don't have to stop at 3000. You can go all the way up to 8000. Now, if you guys want a show car look, you do not have to go this route, guys. You can always give the car a flow coat. It's just gonna take some more time and it's gonna cost you some more material because you're gonna have to sand down the whole car with say 800 grit sandpaper. Make sure that you don't have any burn throughs, and then you go ahead and reduce your clear and re-clear the whole thing, and that is what you would call a flow coat. Now I'm not going that route, so it's wet sanding and buffing. So now this is 3000 grit sandpaper on my DA, and I'm just going to use water. That's all I'm using. You spray water on there, you keep it wet, and you sand down the whole thing. Alright guys, now once you're done with all your sanding, go ahead and get your compound. This is step number one. Step number one, the way to remember this is that the white top compound goes with the white pad. And before you start buffing, just knead in the compound a little bit, because this particularly brand, the 3M brand, it likes to fly everywhere, which I do not like. But other than that, it still gets the job done every single time. Now the speed I'm buffing at is between 14 and 18. You want to make sure that you try to hold the buffer flat and keep it moving. Do not stop. Just treat it like paint. You don't want to just stop and focus in one area, because you will burn the paint using the buffer, believe it or not. Because what's gonna happen is this works with heat, so it gets really hot. If you're ever buffing, just feel the panel after you finish one section and see how hot it gets. So before I move on to step number two, I will go over this one section about, I will add compound like 3 times before I move on. And what I like to do at the end of the day, guys, once I finish with the compound step number one, I like to leave it for like an hour or two outside in the sun, because it gets a little hazy after that. And then I'll go back and do about 2 more coats of compound, and then I will move on to step number 2 and step number 3. So as you can imagine, buffing do take some time, and if you want to get it right and not have any complaints at the end of the day, you're gonna have to be patient. So here, after about 3 coats of compound, you can see that it looks good. You're not seeing all those sand scratches anymore, which means we can go ahead and move on to the rest of the panel. I do my best to buff in sections so that I don't get confused or overwhelmed. Alright guys, once you're confident that you're done with step number 1, go ahead and move on to step number 2. Step number 2 is the black top that goes with the black pad. This is not compound, it's a polish, and it's not going to cut anything. The pad itself, the black pad, is much softer, and the polish is finer, which is going to give you that shiny look that you're looking for, get rid of all that haze from the step number 1. Now it usually takes about 2 coats of the polish to get it to exactly where you need it to be. And once you're done with step number 2, I'm going to move on to step number 3 with the swirl remover from Turbo Wax using the dual action buffer. This is the buffer that I like to finish with. It really gives you less of a powerful cut and needing that swirl remover so you can get rid of all that haziness and all the swirls from step number 1 and step number 2. Now all you need is about 3 coats of this swirl remover and you're good to go.
There is only one of you, only one of me. There's a million of those who won't let us be, but they're not gonna see me bleed. Cause baby I got you. I've been beaten to the ground, dragged across the dirt. I've been scared to live cause some people never learn, but they're not gonna watch me burn. Cause baby I got you. It's a new beginnings and a better life.
And here is what it looks like, guys, after we did all that sanding, getting rid of all the dirt nib trash, using the compound on the buffer, the polish, and the swirl remover. This is what it looks like, and this is the prime example of what I'll be doing on all the other panels. So let's go ahead and take a look outside. And just like that, guys, we're all done with the buffing. Buffing can be a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, but once you know what you're doing and follow the step that I showed you in this video, then your next buff job is gonna be much easier. When you know what you're doing, the jobs become easier. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's an easy job, but it becomes easier once you know what you're doing. So thank you guys for watching. Until next time, class dismissed.